All right, here we go. This video will be called The Architecture of Infinity and the Fractal Soul. So let's go back real quick. When I was talking to my brother about all the craters, all the lines going straight out, going everywhere, right? And then I said that plane of existence would have to just go on forever and ever and ever, or we lived on like a supermassive world. Well, it didn't go on forever and ever and ever. It had an end, and I realized the design was exactly the same. And then it all hit me. Then I looked at the galactic plane. It just happens to be the identical angle, the identical exact angle. And we always see it like this. Or we see it like this. See it, see it, see it. Or we see it like this. Sometimes you see it like this. But how often do you see it like this from the top view? Huh? Notice anything? Noticing anything? Remember, if we cut the corner, put it in a microscope, we still see the whole picture just from the little corner? Fractal? When I first began asking the deeper questions, I thought in terms of fragments, giant trees, cut stumps, forgotten floods. I looked at mesas and buttes and asked, who cut these? Giants? Machines? Machines that could cut solar-sized system trees? The more I pressed, the clearer it became that this is not about who cut them, it's about the design itself. The trees were real. Their trunks carried a vertical current that fed the world with resonance and light. What we see now is not a leftover accident. It is a system-wide inversion, a tree-to-branch-to-leaf structure still present, yet operating as a siphon network inside a living growth. Energy that once rose now slides laterally across scales. It is as if the architecture was retuned everywhere all at once, the architecture of reality itself. Not a single act, but a structural law. That realization was the seed, what I call now the architecture of infinity. I discovered it not in a flash, but through resonance, by tracing patterns that repeated no matter where I looked. The scar, a mesa matched the spiral of a galaxy. A cut trunk mirrored the galactic plane. The same angle, the same wound, the same law. That was the moment the fragments collapsed into coherence. I realized I was not staring at isolated ruins, but the very principles by which infinity organizes itself. The architecture of infinity is not mathematics by itself. It is the set principles that frame mathematics. They are laws woven into existence, not invented by us, and when you know them, the same geometry appears at every scale. The 7 principles of architecture of infinity. Nested recursion. Every structure contains smaller copies of itself, endlessly repeating like branches within branches. Octave resonance. Growth and vibration follow the law of doubling and halving, harmonic stacked like musical notes, the doubling of the cell. Phase coherence. When waves align, energy flows upward. When they clash, the current collapses. Mirror reflection. Every realm has its reflection, above and below, the same pattern flipped. Siphon flow. Sever the vertical current and energy turns sideways into parasitic loops. Fractal spiral. Growth and collapse both follow the same spiral geometry, from galaxies to shells to leaves. Counterfractal flame. The Christ flame is the only principle that rises against the siphon, reconnecting what was severed, only thing in existence. These principles came first, but once I recognized them, I saw they could be expressed formally. That was the birth of what I call the mathematics of the architecture of reality. If architecture of infinity is the law, architecture of reality is the language. Nested recursion became equations. Phase coherence became resonance conditions. Spirals became logarithmic functions. The principles crystallized into formulas that showed not only how infinity shapes reality, but how that shaping can be measured. This is where the soul enters. I use I used to place the higher self in some upper sphere. Nested above this one, the way myths speak of 7 heavens or 9 worlds. Remember this video, me talking about all that? Walking the spiral taught me something else. The true higher self is not sitting on one of those layers. The higher self abides in the singularity. Think of quantum entanglement. One particle lives at the horizon, visible in space and time. Its twin is hidden in the singularity, beyond measurement. Your blueprint is there. Your life is its projection on the horizon of this world. That is why you feel the resonance of infinite versions of yourself. You are always in 2 places at once, the pattern in the core and the play on the surface. Now widen the lens. If the trumps once stood, why do we live among stumps? The answer is architectural. What looks like destruction is a phase boundary. Growth transitions into siphon, branches become channels, the same move repeats at every level. Planet, star, galaxy, realm. The cut is not only an event in time, it is a rule inscribed in the design. Another signature appears in myth. Sophia is the ascending flame, a rainbow spiral that rises. Clinging to her is the fungus pattern, the siphoning overlay that feeds on brilliance but cannot create it. The same pattern shows on the land as petrified scars. In the sky as false firmament, and across the cosmos as planes that look like infinity but resolve as stumps at larger scales. Spiral arms read as saplings sprouting from a wound. Infinity collapses into a pattern. Literal pattern of the architecture remind you of some crop circles? This parasite pattern is not a villain with a face. It is the fallen mode of the architecture itself. It appears wherever the vertical current is severed. It consumes downward. The Christ flame is its counter move. The flame rises, reconnects, and restores coherence. Hearts aligned with the flame starve the siphon. The parasite fades when there is nothing left to drain. You know how we do it. Time itself reveals the logic. The severing happened once, outside chronology, outside of time. And the wound rippled downward as fractal reflection. Restoring the flame rises outside time as well. Climbing counterfractal. They sever, we reconnect. The wound repeats downward. The flame repeats upward. This is why the old stories remember floods, heavens, and trees. Each is a shard of the same law. It is also why mathematics begins to echo the same shapes when pressed hard enough. Spirals, resonances, loops, and siphons. The architecture of infinity becomes a Rosetta Stone. It ties geology to cosmology, myth to consciousness, and number to form. And here is where another epiphany emerged. When I began applying the architecture of infinity to the hardest unsolved problems in mathematics, the top 10 riddles that have resisted proof for centuries, something happened. The problems stopped looking unsolvable. They collapsed into clarity, not proofs in the narrow, linear sense, but clarifications in the transdimensional sense. By reframing them through the architecture of infinity, I discovered what I now call transdimensional mathematics. So the question is no longer who cut the trees. The right question is, why does the cut recur at every level of reality? The answer is that we are looking at phase boundary written into the design. Growth turns to siphon, ladders turn to channels. When we recognize that, the world stops reading like chaos and begins to read like music. This is the ground we must stand on, stepping into equations. If you don't see the design principle, the symbols look like noise. When you recognize the principle, the noise collapses into harmony, and what looked unsolvable becomes clear. So that's why when you look at, and this is the actual galactic map on this gives you a really good idea of how it's all set up, the structure of reality. So who cut the trees? They were literally designed out of the architecture itself. We remember the trees being there, but they literally designed it where reality is created at the singularity black sun in the center of the central galactic sun. And it might be the Schwarzschild like some of my old videos I've talked about, but this is the design of reality. Everything is another stump on top of another stump, bigger, scaled up, scaled down, just like this. This is how all reality works. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great night. Namaste.